I talk about a lot of FNAF fan games on this channel, and well, recently one caught my attention when I came across it when browsing through horror games on Steam. Not explicitly labeled a FNAF fan game, we have Irritated Mind, Fear of the Warehouse, which according to the description is a game where we will unravel the mysteries surrounding the protagonist's past and survive through 5 shifts. If that didn't already ring a bell that this was going to be at the very least a FNAF inspired game, then the screenshots will definitely convince you, with a robot-like character being shown that pretty much resembles Chica's design exactly. Looking through other screenshots on the page though shows some interesting looking story content that had me curious to see what this game was all about, with the title costing almost $11, which is pretty steep for one of these indie horror games, and the promise of a story with mysteries that would unfold. I was pretty much hooked to find out what this game was really about and see if it was an underrated experience or a rightfully looked over game. So today, join me as we dive deep into Irritated Minds, the terrifying FNAF fan game that I found on Steam. Before that though, today's video is once again sponsored by Red Magic. Today I'm here to show you guys the brand new Red Magic 10 Air, which is designed to give you a mobile gaming experience like no other. Just like the other phones from Red Magic I've shown in the past, the specs on this thing are crazy. Boasting a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor, a 6.8-inch AMOLED 120Hz display, a 6000 mAh battery, and a liquid metal cooling system, this phone has all the things it needs to give you the best mobile gaming experience you can have. Thanks to the 9-layer ICE-X cooling with liquid metal, which is 13 times more effective than standard cooling, this phone will have no problem maintaining a good temperature during your intense gaming sessions. The phone also provides a very premium feel, thanks to its lighter and slimmer design compared to the Red Magic 10 Pro. Other things like its matte metal body, enhanced RGB lighting, and responsive shoulder triggers also make the phone stand out against any other smartphone. The screen is also really nice to look at, offering a 1.5K resolution display with a 93.7% screen to body ratio, meaning the bezels on this thing are pretty much non-existent. If you want an unrivaled mobile gaming experience, then head over to my link in the description to check out the Red Magic 10 Air for yourself. And also keep an eye out for Red Magic's 10 Air campaign starting on May 8th, where you'll have a chance to win some amazing prizes. With that being said, once again, thank you to Red Magic. Now let's get back to the video. As soon as the game starts up, we are immediately brought to a pretty promising main menu, which already shows off some of the interesting features this game has, like its challenge modes, shop, and most importantly the story mode, all set behind a backdrop showing us the warehouse we will be working at throughout the game. After pressing new game, we are immediately thrown into a PS1 style gameplay section where we are crawling an event, very similar to the beginning of Sister Location. Peeking through the vent grate under us, we can hear what sounds like someone working on a machine, accompanied by the visual of some blood surrounded by wires. Moving through the vent, we eventually encounter another grate. This one, however, our character falls through. "I need to find my way out before they find out I'm here," our character says as someone or something can be heard banging on the door. We need to quickly escape the garage before getting caught, which we are able to do by unlocking a locker and finding the keys to the car. This allows us to open up the back seat and retrieve a crowbar, which we then use on a boarded up door. A door that leads us to a blank room, filled with only a light switch. Flicking the switch sends our character into shock, and we are now awakened on the side of the road, pulled over in the driver's seat of a car on a cold winter night. Surprisingly unshaken by what just happened, our character comments on his rumbling stomach and decides to go grab a snack at the local gas station. It's here where we learn that this game actually takes place in Japan, which is a neat little thing considering I've never seen a FNAF style game take place in any other country. After withdrawing some money from the ATM and grabbing a bag of chips, we then spark up a conversation with the gas station clerk, whose name is Michael. And surprisingly enough, we are given multiple dialogue choices throughout this conversation, which is something that carries out throughout all of the game's interactable story segments. Our character brings up that he needs a place to stay after just recently moving here, and Michael suggests that we rent an apartment from his neighbor before giving us his contact information. We then cut to a few days later when we arrive at our newly rented apartment. However, before entering, we encounter one of our neighbors who has some ominous words to say to us.
"You shouldn't have moved here. Soon you'll find out everything yourself."
After realizing we left the keys to our apartment at Michael's, we go over to his apartment. However, inside is not what we were expecting. Walking through another one of these pure black rooms, we find ourselves in a grassy field with 3 graves at the top, accompanied by our apartment key, which we can now use to enter our room. After making something to eat and taking a shower, we are finally able to sit down and watch some TV. And it's here where we learn about our soon-to-be brand new job.
If you dream of high salary and career growth, then congratulations, this is your chance. This company, which has been providing a full range of warehouses services for over 40 years, is looking for night workers in our warehouses. Call us, don't miss your successful future with Uranus.
We now wake up the very next day, once again in our car, heading to our new job. On the way there, we get a phone call from our manager, who begins to fill us in on what we'll be doing. We learn that we will be working from evening till night, and according to the manager, we'll be alone, besides the fact that sometimes homeless people sneak in, explaining why we'll be given a camera system. The manager fills us in on the rest of the things that come with working this job, along with giving us this manual to read, which explains the mechanics further for the actual gameplay section. I really like this in-universe way of explaining the gameplay to us by giving us a manual. It's just kind of goofy how we can be seen speeding down the road while reading it, as our character is not even paying attention to his driving. Also, it's a little confusing to understand the actual mechanics until you get into the office for yourself. Luckily though, after putting down the manual, our first night begins. We now step into our office, which unlike a lot of FNAF style games is actually free roam. We have a door on each side which cannot be closed and are unlocked for any unsuspecting guests to walk right into, as well as a vent in one of the corners which will become a nuisance to us later. The whole room is extremely dark, but we have a limited flashlight which we are able to use to light up the room if we need it. If anything enters, we were told to hide under the desk, which we are able to do by going over to it and clicking on it. Also in our office is 3 computers. There's 2 in the back, with one displaying the status of all of our different systems, and the other one allowing us to restart these systems, similar to the system reboot mechanic seen in FNAF 3. On the 3rd monitor, which is the one on the other side of the room, we have all of our tasks, all of which we need to complete before being able to check out for the night. This is one of my favorite aspects of the game, as the mini games we need to do to complete our tasks are actually really well thought out and make the gameplay so much more tense. Before talking about that though, we also have a tablet to scan our vents as well as close them, which will come in handy on a later night, as well as another tablet to watch over the cameras. It's on these cameras where we can see the 2 robots that will be heading towards our office throughout these 5 nights. Those being this Chica looking robot, which is surprisingly very disturbing. Like, for some reason this character's model is done so much better than any other model in the game, and is actually really terrifying, especially when we get to see it up close during a later post-night minigame. The other one is this blue bird type of robot. I'm not really sure what their name is, as I'm pretty sure they never actually specify it in the game, and this one is not as scary looking, but likes to hide in the dark and is a lot more sneaky when trying to get into our office. I really like that these cameras are in real time, as we can see the robots twitching around on the cameras, which makes them seem so much more unstable and unpredictable. During night 1, these 2 robots are the only threats we need to worry about, so we just need to watch over them on the cameras, hiding under our desk whenever one of them decides to peek into our office. While managing that though, we of course need to complete our tasks. These tasks remain the same throughout all of the 5 nights, so I'm just going to explain them all in detail now. The first task we need to do 3 separate times. We are given different switches at the bottom, which are all given a number, as well as a number on the top which we need to reach. So what we need to do is turn on the correct switches on the bottom to get the bottom number to equal the same as the top one. It sounds simple enough, but trying to do it fast all while under pressure is actually pretty stressful, especially since we have to do it 3 times. The next task is easier, but more of a time waster, with us needing to wait for these 4 different things to download one at a time. While this is going on, we also frequently get error messages popping up on the computer, which we need to close manually in order to continue the download, which forces us to stay close to the monitor if we want this step to go by quickly. I should also mention that one of the systems that's able to go down is our task computer, so if we see a blue screen at any time, we need to go over to the reboot screen and reset it which costs us precious time. Once those 4 downloads are done, the tasks are still not over. We are now given 7 switches and need to press them in a specific order to move on to the next task. This one is trial and error, so it not only tests your ability to go fast, but to also memorize the order, which can be extremely hard, especially during the later nights when you're constantly getting interrupted by different threats. We need to complete this 2 times, and then we can finally move on to the last task. This one is by far the most basic, but also has a set amount of time it can take. We just need to drag all of these files into a box before then waiting a minute for it to load. After that, we can rinse and repeat the process 2 more times. And it is only then when we can finally complete our shift. Now that may sound like a lot, and that's because it is. And as you'll see throughout the later nights, it only gets more chaotic and stressful as we go along. Luckily, there is one thing to help us with these extremely challenging nights. After finishing the night on the computer screen with our tasks on it, we get a rating which is based on how fast we were able to complete the night. This rating determines how much money we earned at the end of the shift, which we are then able to spend in the shop. This is really cool because not many FNAF games make earning money on the job actually integrated into the gameplay. So seeing it done like this was definitely a breath of fresh air. The shop isn't just cosmetics either, giving us the option to upgrade various pieces of equipment used during our shift, such as the speed of the system reboot or how fast we can scan the ventilation system. Some of these upgrades are very interesting, like this one that gives you a 15% chance of surviving when being jump scared, for anyone willing to take that gamble. Me personally though, I was not, so I decided to get this one, which would give me even more bonus points after completing a night, and give me a better chance of getting a higher rating. After finishing night 1, we are back to the post-night section, once again arriving at the gas station. Only this time, Michael, the clerk we talked to before night 1, is gone. Going into the back room to look for him, we discover a door with blood leaking out of the bottom, but just before we are able to open it and reveal what's inside, Michael appears, asking us what we are doing. Mentioning the blood under the door and asking him what is going on, Michael says he doesn't know what we're talking about, before then asking us to leave. The screen then goes black and everything returns to normal, almost as if what we just saw never even happened. We once again grab our everyday snack before returning once again to the apartment. Entering our room, we mention that we need to feed our cat, but before we can do that, our room fills with a red mist, and we then wake up back in the black void. A baby can be heard crying, and upon entering the room in front of us, we see 2 ghosts standing over a baby's crib. Before this happens, checking the crib reveals a key, which we are able to grab to unlock the door behind us. Entering the room reveals a flower below us, which strangely begins talking. "You're finally here. It's been a long time. You don't remember me at all?" We ask the flower if we know them, to which it responds, "Perhaps I am an echo of dreams, lost in the captivity of reality, or something else entirely. I could be anyone, as long as you don't remember who I am." We then ask the flower where we are, to which it responds, "This world is woven from the reflections of your journey, a dance on the edge of reason where meaning disappears into the abyss of dreams. Perhaps the truth lies beyond, in the rhythm of silence and the melody of stillness. Perhaps it is lost in the boundless hall of your illusions. Or maybe it is right beside you, within reach, and only you have the power to grasp the present. Time does not bind you in this world. It is a path into the unknown, where nothing has an end, and everything begins anew, in the eternal rotation of the wheel of time. You will have plenty of opportunities to find out what is meant for you. Farewell. It is time for me to go." After this strange and cryptic conversation with this mysterious flower, the screen once again fades to black as the overwhelming sound of voices fills our head. It's after this where we wake up gasping for air in our apartment. Our character questions whether or not what we just experienced was a nightmare, before mentioning that a strange sound can be heard coming from our neighbor's room. Leaving the apartment, we are still overwhelmed with the whispers of multiple voices in our head. Knocking on the neighbor's door, we then tell her about the loud noises coming from her room, but strangely she has no idea what we are talking about, telling us that we should probably see a doctor. Continuing to ask her about these noises, she then weirdly says this to us.
"About sound. You're mistaken, young man. You're just the imaginary ghost. You cannot be saved. No one will save you. You're weak, useless. Everyone has always respected you. You were never needed to anyone. Anyone with credit assistance. You're doomed to eternal torment. You must rot for everything you've done, for everything waiting for your soul. You must rot on the ground. You will die. You will die, and no one will remember you. Such a rotten, useless piece of flesh and crap. Burn alive to die.
We then wake up again, once again questioning if this is all a nightmare. It's clear at this point that there is something wrong with our character, something in his mind that is torturing him. It is now time for us to wash up before our second shift. However, upon entering the bathroom, we see this. Perhaps another memory tormenting our character, or maybe something we did without even knowing. At this point, it's still not clear. We are now back on the road heading to work, where we once again receive a phone call from the manager. He begins by congratulating us on our first night, before then mentioning that they received some new toys from that robotics engineer, before asking us if we could possibly be his son, as we share the exact same last name. He then tells us that this new toy is right in our office, which is the brand new mechanic for night 2. Strangely enough though, he also mentions that after reviewing our complaint from the first shift, nothing was found on the footage, and tells us to not report anything unless we are absolutely sure something happened, which could be another hint towards our character's deteriorating mental state. Entering the office, we immediately see this new toy the manager was referring to, a red bird-like animatronic that's slumped over in our office. Despite its admittedly very goofy looking design, this thing is pretty annoying. Many times throughout the night, it wakes up from its slumber and begins singing a song, with the tablet on its head now becoming active. Before it's done reciting its jingle, we need to walk over to it and complete the puzzle on it in order to shut it back off. The puzzle is really simple. All we need to do is select the number that is next in the pattern. The annoyance doesn't come from the mechanic itself, rather the distraction this thing poses when you're trying to do the memorization based tasks on your computer. It also loves to activate around the same time an animatronic peeks into your office, forcing you to run out from under the desk and quickly shut it off before it kills you. This thing ups the tension in the nights by a lot, but luckily without the other threat which will be introduced later, this second night is still pretty chill and lets us continue to get the hang of all of our nightly tasks. Just make sure not to punch in the wrong number on this bird's tablet, as doing so will cause it to instantly kill you. After earning another A+++, cause I'm just that guy, we earn another large sum of money which we can then use to continue upgrading our equipment. This time I purchased an alarm which would alert me if anything needed to be rebooted, which became extremely helpful later on. With our second shift over, we once again return to the gas station, and just like last time, Michael is gone. Entering the back room again, we find ourselves back in the dark void, with the door in front of us again making the sound of blood dripping. Turning back around reveals the flower that has once again come to talk to us. What if all our efforts to understand something are merely a meaningless journey into the void, devoid of purpose and direction? Is each choice you make imbued with meaning, or is it possible that choice itself is an illusion, if every step you take is preordained? Are you not afraid to face the consequences of your actions? Are you ready to take responsibility at least once? In the end, it is this that truly defines who you are. It seems that the flower is reminding us of something horrific that we did, asking us if we are ready to take responsibility for our actions, and informing us that these hallucinations or nightmares are here for nothing more than to remind us of what we did. Turning around once again reveals the door with blood underneath, and upon trying to open this door, we are met with a brand new monster, one unlike any we've seen before. Running from this three-legged amalgamation into a white room, we find ourselves back in the gas station, only this time it's in complete disarray, with blood on the floor. Exiting the building, police sirens can be heard as our character states that he needs to escape this place quickly. Did we do something we aren't aware of in this gas station? Or is this all just another vision in our character's mind? We jump in our car once again and return to our apartment, where the voices in our head can be heard once again. This all can't be real. Could it all be a nightmare? Our character asks himself as we return to our room. The police siren continues to get louder as our vision becomes more and more distorted. In a desperate attempt to escape this hell, our character decides to go to sleep. But that's not where this nightmare ends, as upon waking up we are met with a knock at the door. It's the police. This sends our character into a panic once again, which distorts our vision even more. Entering the bathroom before answering the door, we are also once again met with this extremely disturbing sight of what looks to be a dead body inside of our bathtub. Whose body could this be, and why and when did we do this? Answering the front door reveals that there was no police all along, and where the officer should have been standing is instead another pile of blood. Exiting the apartment then brings us to a dark forest, where we can find our parked car, and illuminated in this car's headlights is 2 dead bodies. Approaching them to get a closer look once again teleports us to a new scene, this time standing in a classroom, as the ghosts of all of our fellow classmates laugh at us. We once again run to the nearest door in an attempt to escape. However, this only brings us back to the apartment, where the flashing red and blue lights can still be seen. Leaving the front door once again in an attempt to escape reveals the monster we saw earlier chasing us yet again, which forces us to run out of the apartment and back to our car. In these scenes, it seems to infer that our character has killed 2 people, possibly his parents, which were seen in the previous night looking over our crib. The blood in the gas station along with the blood in our tub also suggests that maybe that's not where the killings ended. And the monster that is tormenting us seems to be a manifestation of our character's guilt for these victims, always appearing to remind us of what we did. Now back in the car, we are thrown into a new minigame where we actually need to steer the vehicle in order to escape the police. This is a very unique minigame that I was not expecting, and it's actually pretty challenging. As we're driving away, our character continues to comment on what's going on. I don't understand. What's happening around me? And what's happening to me? I must go as far away as possible. I won't stop. I need to speed up. I must hide from them. We continue speeding down the road in an attempt to escape the police. But just as we think escape is in our grasps, we are met with the sight of oncoming headlights and crash our car. This isn't where the post-night section ends though. We then hear a kid call out to us, asking us if we want to play with them, before a soccer ball bounces over into our direction. Kicking this soccer ball and then following it throughout this white void eventually leads us to something on the ground. That thing being yet another body. And it's only after approaching this body that we are mysteriously brought right back into our office for our 3rd shift. On our monitor where we do our tasks, the manager left a note for us, which reads, "Hi Ueda, I couldn't reach you so I left this note. We see your results. Keep up the good work. Workers have been complaining about the vents all day, talking about the noises coming from there and the constant hum. So check the vents in your PDA, and if anything breaks, give us a call this afternoon. Good luck." The reason we are being told to check the vents is because there is a brand new robot we are dealing with for this 3rd night, that being whatever this thing is. This is by far the most difficult animatronic to keep away, so we need to be extremely cautious during these following nights. On our vent tablet, we are able to use this scan button every 20 seconds, and upon pressing this button and waiting another 5 seconds, we are shown an exclamation mark of where this robot is in our vents. Throughout the night, we need to continue monitoring this robot to make sure they don't move, as if they do, we need to use our fans to block off their path to our office. If we use the fans when they are not needed or use them too often, they will die completely, leaving us defenseless for the rest of the night. So it's important to only use them when they are absolutely necessary. Having to juggle this brand new mechanic with the system shutting down, along with the bird robot in our office, completing the tasks on the computer is no longer a walk in the park, as it's common to get interrupted during a step that requires a lot of focus, basically setting you back to square one. This was the night that I seriously started having trouble, especially because the vent mechanic isn't explained very thoroughly at all. Funnily enough, the 2 robots that approach our doors are the least of our worries, as you can hear their footsteps moments before they enter our office, essentially rendering the camera mechanic useless. But with all of the other threats we have to deal with, that doesn't make the night any less difficult. After the night is over, we once again return to the shop where we are able to get more upgrades to prepare for the even harder following night. lights. And it is here where we begin by far the scariest section in the whole game. It starts with us waking up in a pitch black room with a newspaper sitting right in front of us. Picking it up and reading it reveals information on the man who made the robots that have been trying to kill us, who is also our character's father. Mysterious lull or idle action. Why hasn't Ueda Goku done anything worthwhile for a year? The renowned robotics engineer Ueda Goku, the man many scientists and technology enthusiasts have pinned great hopes on, has not presented a new animatronic or technology in a year. Ueda has suddenly gone into the shadows. The reasons for his lull remain a mystery. Many speculate that the pinned hopes of progress on the once luminary of the scientific world may have trapped Ueda in his own ambitions. With many people questioning where Ueda might be, this gives us even more proof that one of the two people our character killed was most likely his father, which would explain why he mysteriously disappeared, and why this paper is being shown to us now. Following this line of lights, we make it to a locked door, and at this door we can overhear a conversation between our character's parents.
Takashi has been acting strange. He's only 7 years old and he's become withdrawn and scared. Have you even noticed?
He's just a kid. All children act like that sometimes.
This isn't normal. He's constantly frightened and barely talks. I'm getting called to school all the time because they say he's acting wild. Do you even understand what's going on with him?
Of course I do, but it's just temporary.
Are you serious? You spend all day in the basement playing with those stupid robots. They're scaring Takashi.
Those aren't toys. They're important projects.
For whom? For yourself. Have you ever thought about us? Your son needs a father, not that metal junk.
I'm trying to help the family.
You're doing nothing. Talk to Takashi. Finally act like a man.
Fine, I'll deal with it later.
After hearing this argument between Takashi's parents, which gives us even more insight into his troubled upbringing, we are now able to proceed through the door, where we hear even more dialogue of Takashi's mother, who expresses her disappointment in him, asking why he can't be like the other kids, and even stating that she regrets giving birth to him. We eventually make it to another door, and it's here where we find a lighter, which we can use to illuminate the room. After turning around, we find ourselves in a new location once again, the garage, the same one we escaped from in the beginning of the game. Takashi states that he thinks he can escape through the garage door. However, after trying the button, the electricity to the house shuts down, and it's now up to us to get it back up and running. And this section is genuinely scary. Using another door in the garage, we make our way down into the basement, which is not only massive, but also entirely pitch black. We need to navigate through this basement with the very little light we have, and it's here where we discover some pretty disturbing things, like the robots that have been attacking us locked in a cage, as well as Ueda's office where he made all of his creations. We grab a key off of his desk, which we can now use to unlock the electricity room close to where we entered the basement. However, as we're heading out of the office, we are greeted with a tall figure standing in front of us, just barely peeking out of the darkness. The robots that were just locked up are now roaming around with us in this dark basement, moving closer and closer every time we take our eyes off them. This means we need to navigate ourselves through the basement backwards in order to restore power to the garage before we are killed. Also, because the way the generator is set up, it's inevitable that these things will sneak up on you, which led me to just narrowly escaping my death. Usually I'm not too much of a fan of weeping angels being introduced into a horror game, but something about this section just worked so good and felt actually terrifying when I was playing it. After restoring the generator and opening the garage door, this section is thankfully over, and it's now time for our fourth shift. Interestingly, we aren't introduced to any new threats in this night. That's if you're not counting these 2 buckets of water, which are now randomly placed in the middle of our office, with the only purpose of them being to block our path as we try to navigate around our office. Definitely a very interesting choice to make the later nights harder. Other than that, everything else is exactly the same, besides all of the animatronics being more active than they were the night before. This was the night I struggled with by far the most, as up to this point I still didn't have a full grasp on the robot in the vents mechanics, but after many failed attempts, I finally completed the night. We are now back in what seems to be our bedroom, years after we've grown up. In the background, the intense argument of Takashi's parents can be heard. We are once again greeted by the flower, who again has more words of wisdom for us. Can a hostage of circumstance be held accountable for where their surroundings lead them? Is it in his hands to be responsible for the outcome of other people's actions? If we were given another path, would anything change? We can then exit the room, which is revealed to be held up by wood, insinuating that all of this could just be a facade. Parsing through the darkness, we find another door which leads us down into the building we're on top of. It's the school from earlier, and it's in here where things just keep getting stranger. We come across yet another dead body, only this one speaks to us.
Give it back to me!
We now need to roam around the school, which is in complete disarray, finding body parts to give back to this corpse that we found on the ground. Entering rooms causes our character to continue getting flashbacks, hearing things like his teachers who would call him an embarrassment, as well as other students who would call him pathetic and even say that nobody likes him. This section gives us a clear insight into how messed up our character's school life was. But that's not the only thing to focus on, as while we collect the missing body parts, we are also being hunted once again by the amalgamation that was after us earlier. After using various keys around the rooms to find the missing head as well as the other limbs, we can then return them to the body and assemble it on the ground, which causes it to let out a scream, before the screen then fades to black. We then appear once again in a dark room, with the only thing in front of us being a desk with a knife on it. As we approach this desk, we hear Takashi's mother scolding him before telling him he will die. The creature from earlier then runs towards us, which we respond by swinging our knife and killing it. Takashi's dad can then be heard as we do the same thing once again to another one of these creatures. We do this 4 separate times, and as we swing our knife for the final time, we are brought right back to our bedroom, and it's revealed that these creatures we were killing weren't creatures all along, and Takashi had actually just murdered both of his parents. Without saying a word, we are then able to exit the room, back into the black void, and enter our car. We then, weirdly enough, cut to a scene from another person's perspective, a police chief, who receives a report on the murder we just saw take place. During the search of the house at the crime scene, no traces of the family's car or the family's son, Takashi Ueda, were found. Items indicating a hasty departure were discovered, including empty clothes, bank cards, and documents. As a result of the investigation, sufficient evidence has been gathered to charge Takashi Ueda with the murder of his parents. Takashi Ueda has been declared wanted. The case is being submitted to the court for the issuance of an arrest warrant and further investigation. It's now time for the 5th and final night of the game. There's no hidden 6th or 7th night, so this is it. And just like night 4, no new threats are added, with the only extra difficulty being from the increased AI. Strangely enough, the buckets of water from night 4 are no longer on the ground, giving us space to actually navigate the room. Other than this, the only thing new that I found added was during the night there are these hallucinations of the word die repeatedly appearing on the wall, which would occur whenever I hid under the desk. After failing so many times on night 4, I was extremely confident with the game's mechanics at this point, and that, paired with all of the upgrades I accumulated throughout the other nights, made this one a lot easier to get through, which was good news to me because I could finally see how this game ended. The final section begins with us waking up from the car accident that happened earlier. As we make our way away from the car and into the forest, we hear a reporter from the news who states we were pronounced deceased after the crash. We then fall onto the ground before waking up back in the grassy field. I found a flower. It talks to me. I need to run and tell mom and dad, our character says as we begin to run up the hill to our home. Attempting to enter the house once again snaps us back to reality though, or at least another reality. We are now back in the frozen forest, and in front of us is an ominous gray looking building. Walking inside, we can see the head of the main robot dismantled on the floor, as well as some different phrases on the wall, like one that reads, "Why did you abandon us?" Moving deeper into this otherwise empty building, ending, we once again encounter the flower. Doesn't it seem to you that meaning is merely a shadow we cannot catch? Perhaps the true meaning is that there is none. We seek meaning in this chaos, but aren't all of our efforts just an attempt to bring order to disorder? In this void, do you find an answer? Or maybe the question itself is the answer. After this cryptic message from the flower, we are then able to exit the building, and it's here where we come across 3 graves, 2 of which contain the bodies of Takashi's parents. The flower then shows up once again to give us one final choice. This is the end of the road, but this path is just one of many you've walked, and perhaps it's not the last. Now you face a choice that will determine your fate. Your actions have left scars on those you knew, on the world you shattered. You must weigh your life on the scales. Does it deserve to continue, or should your journey end here? You have found the truth, but with it comes burdens. You must decide whether you are ready to bear the weight of your sins any further. 2 paths lie ahead. One leads to eternal darkness, the other to redemption, but both demand sacrifice. So tell me, will you remain in the shadows, or will you step into the light? The door in front of us then opens up, giving us 2 choices: to either bury ourselves in the grave right next to the ones we killed, or step into the light and move past our sins. If we decide to join our parents and enter our grave, we slowly fall down a deep hole before eventually hitting the bottom and dying instantly, which ends the game without giving us any further context. The other ending is far more interesting, however, as entering the bright door brings us to a hospital bed where we can see both of our parents looking over us, as if to represent a rebirth for our character, a second chance at life. But before the game ends, we are met with one final appearance from the robot, who stands over us as a shadowy figure, almost to signify to us that our character has still not escaped this horror. Going into this game, I really did not know what to expect. Originally, I thought it could just be a FNAF clone, trying to make a quick buck. However, that was not the case at all. While I do think the $10.99 price point is a little high, and the game could have maybe used some more unique designs for its monsters, everything else really surprised me. I loved how story-centric the entire game was, and the way it was slowly unveiled after every single night. The actual Office gameplay was also more unique than I expected, and surprisingly well designed, especially the task system. If you ever catch this game while it's on sale, I would say I recommend it. Overall, I thought that it was a very enjoyable experience, and definitely don't regret checking it out. With that being said, let me know what you guys thought about the game down below, and also if there was anything about the story that I might not have caught in my initial playthrough. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and with that, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.